B.org. And it is hard to believe that the 2021 Sanderson Farms Championship is only about a month away. And one of its most anticipated events is the Women's Day Luncheon. It will be the 8th year for the Women's Day Luncheon this year, and it will be held at the Country Club of Jackson on Tuesday, September the 28th. And joining us today on Good Things is this year's keynote speaker, Miss Katherine Wolf. Hey, Miss Katherine.
Hey there. So glad to talk to you.
It's good to have you here. It's good to see that the championship is coming back and we're getting ready for some fall weather, because that's usually when the golf tournament comes to Mississippi. But your message is pretty special. It's one of survival and recovery. Can you take us back to 2007, Katherine, when you gave birth to your first son, James?
Absolutely. I had a sweet, perfectly healthy baby boy in October of 2007, and then 6 months later, I had a massive brainstem stroke out of absolutely nowhere with no warning and no symptoms, just my brain basically had something similar to an aneurysm called an AVM, and because of that, it caused a brainstem stroke. And to this day, I am severely disabled and cannot drive a car, cannot walk, have many, many other impairments post-stroke. But I'm alive. I lived to tell.
You did live, and you definitely have this message of survival and hope. But I have to wonder, it had to be a pretty muddy road to get to that place of peace, to still walk in positivity, even when life throws you some of the hardest curveballs. So what was your journey like to maybe getting to that point where you just said, hey, you know, you can find joy in the worst crisis?
Oh, absolutely. I, from my initial stroke, spent almost 2 years in hospitals and recovering baseline to relearn to eat and speak and walk. So literally, I was taken down to just about zero. We had to relearn through various therapies how to live. And it was an extremely difficult journey. So much pain on every level. Of course, the worst was that I had a baby who was growing up during this time of me being virtually incapacitated. And there was and there is sadness for sure, absolutely. And while most of it, the sorrow and the deep bitterness of it all has definitely lessened as the years have passed, there is still a sense of pain. However, there has been such a deep sense of purpose in the years after the stroke to do things such as this, to speak and share. And we have a camp for families with disabilities now. And we have seen through our speaking and writing ministry, we've written 2 books actually, just how important having hope and sharing hope has become. That in fact, actually, it has changed the way I think about my situation. And I feel now very chosen by God, not forgotten or like I was a mistake, but in fact chosen to carry this message of hope.
Well, I think that's a very powerful message that I think we can all sort of connect with right now, Katherine. I know you specifically work with families who have family members who are living life differently abled through Hope Heals camps, which I want to ask, how did you get to the point that you wanted to provide that kind of space for individuals? But back up just to say, I think right now in this time, we all feel a little hopeless or feel like maybe, you know, we are being punished by a loved one getting COVID or losing our job to, you know, because of the pandemic, or, you know, everything in between of those two, you know, scenarios where it feels like there is no purpose to this pain.
Right. Absolutely. So your question is, how do I not feel that way?
Yes. How do we get there?
Absolutely. Well, I could not agree more that because of COVID and the last, almost 2 years, a year and a half, I guess, of terrible stuff suffering and isolation, there is very similar feelings of just deep, there's been trauma that's happened in our stories, and we've lost loved ones, lost jobs, lost so much throughout this time. And I have seen it in my own story of suffering that when you see what is happening in your life as for some greater purpose, you can lean in differently to that. And I say that so gently and tenderly, that while we may not understand what God is doing in our story, we can trust it and lean in deeper into the reality that somehow God is at work in our lives, that he's writing a story, and that there may be some very painful, difficult chapters in the story, but that the story is ultimately a good story.
And there is more chapters with babies in your story. I know after baby James, who you had 6 months prior to your catastrophic stroke, Katherine, you welcomed baby John. When did baby John come into the Wolf family?
You're exactly right. In summer of 2015, John Nestor was born, and he had just turned 6 years old and is doing wonderfully in kindergarten. And such a blessing. He is the miracle child. Not many women in wheelchairs go on to have babies, so it is truly miraculous that he is in our story.
And you and your husband have founded Hope Hills Camp. Tell us a little bit about that and the inspiration to provide this safe space for those with disabilities.
Absolutely. Our camp is located in northwest Alabama, actually not far from Mississippi. So everyone hearing my voice should volunteer to come work at camp because it's life-changing. But it's near Jasper, Alabama. It's a place called Nauvoo, Alabama. It's northwest, north of Tuscaloosa. And it is an encouragement like none other. We invite families where someone is dealing with a disability to come totally for free. The whole family is invited to come and enjoy a week-long summer camp experience where they are strengthened and encouraged and celebrated, and they get to celebrate and get to be a part of something very, very special. We've seen that in the disability community. There is tremendous isolation and a deep need for rest for the caregivers specifically, and there is a deep need for financial support because nobody has any money after tragedies with disability. People are trying to cope and pay their bills, and it's very difficult. So we provide a free vacation virtually for these families to engage in a deep, special community where they are no longer obsessed with the myth that joy can only be found in a pain-free life. And instead, they relish in the fact that things are not okay, but they can still celebrate life.
Oh, I love that. And amen is just about all I can think to say, Katherine, after that statement, disrupting the myth that joy can only be found in a pain-free life. Man, I think we all need to sit and sort of resonate or really dive into that sort of teeth first, right? And sort of gnaw on it for a little while and what that looks like in our own lives and in our own stories, because no one gets out of this or gets off this planet pain-free. Let's put it that way. Everyone's going to have some trials or tribulations at some point during their journey, and some are experiencing a lot now, and some were experiencing before the pandemic. Life shifts at any moment, as you definitely know, Katherine. So you are coming to Mississippi, September the 28th. You will be here at the Jackson Country Club for the Sanderson Farms Championship Women's Day Luncheon. How do we find more information about that if we want to come meet you in person?
Absolutely. Well, I would love that. Well, you can go to our website, which is hopeheals.com, and link through to Sanderson Farms event and get a ticket and join us. We'd love that.
I love that. Disrupting the myth that joy can only be found in a pain-free life. Katherine Wolf, I was blessed by this today, so I appreciate your time. And welcome to Mississippi next month.
Oh, well, I can't wait to be there. Thank you so much.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We've got more good